Okay, we're going to talk about the problems with history. What are the problems with history? I can describe problems with history. This is from a famous musical that was recently one of the top musicals in Broadway in New York. Here's a quote. It says, "Elphaba, where I'm from, we believe all sorts of things that aren't true. We call it history. A man's called a traitor or liberator. A rich man's a thief or philanthropist. Is one a crusader or ruthless invader? It's all in which label is able to persist." And so I'll put a link of the actual song. So this is just a fun song from Wicked. But so it's basically saying that history is not a real thing. It's just a made-up story. And a lot of times we call a person a traitor. And George Washington, for example, he helped free America. And so we call him a liberator. He freed us. But the British at that time called him a traitor. They were saying that he was betraying his true country. He was British. He was a member of the British military at one point, and then he betrayed his country. And so they're saying he's a traitor. A rich man's a thief or a philanthropist. There's been lots of famous, successful businessmen in America who were kind of ruthless businessmen. They kind of took over and they dominated, and they established kind of monopolies, and some people would criticize them as they got super rich. But then they donated a lot of their wealth to America and built libraries and helped cure diseases, and that's still going on today. And so are these really successful businessmen, are they thieves or are they philanthropists? Is one a crusader or ruthless invader? The Crusades was when Christians about 1,000 years ago came from Europe and took over what they considered to be the Holy Land, which is like today it's the Middle East, it's the land of Israel or Palestine. So were these people that freed the Holy Land, or were they ruthless invaders that murdered lots of innocent people? And there's different perspectives there. Back then they used to look at these people as heroes. Today most people would say those were ruthless invaders. It's all in which label is able to persist. So this quote seems to be saying that those in power that get to write the history and tell the story and to label these people get to define them, whether they're heroes or enemies, good guys or bad guys. And this happened, it's happened throughout all history. It happens today, is that those that control history often have a lot of influence on the story. This is a public announcement in China from about 2,000 years ago. And the emperor of China was from the Qin emperor. That's where you get the word China. It's Qin. He made this announcement. He says, all historians' records, other than those of Qin's, the emperor, shall be burned. Anyone who dares to discuss the Xi Jing or the classic history shall be publicly executed. Anyone who uses history to criticize the present shall have his family executed. Anyone who has failed to burn the books after 30 days of this announcement shall be sent to build the Great Wall. So you either burn your books, or if you use those books, you'll be executed. Or if you keep those books, you'll be sent as a slave. And the interesting thing is China is still doing this. So they recently passed a law. If you live in Hong Kong, you don't have access to certain books. They're taking books out of the library. If you're a teacher that promotes democracy, you'll be fired from your job. And if you are a newspaper that criticizes the Chinese government, you'll be shut down. So they want to control history. By controlling history, you control the minds of the people, and you can keep the people loyal to your country. This has happened a lot in American history. So this painting shows a particular version of American history. It shows white European Americans spreading west across the continent and kicking Native Americans off their land. And according to this painting, it seems like it's a really good thing. They're bringing technology and science and light and religion and knowledge. And these people, it's saying these Native Americans are are maybe uncivilized and are uneducated, and that's kind of the story that they're promoting. And so this is a problem with history. The challenge with history is often defined by those in power for their own benefit. And I would argue this, that the solution is that we have to learn from multiple perspectives. We've got to do our best to try to get what was the Native American perspective? What were these other books saying that were criticizing the government? We got to draw from that perspective. What was the perspective of George Washington being a traitor or a liberator, or some of these businessmen being thieves and philanthropists? We got to get both perspectives, and this is how you can get a more balanced, better judgment with history. So those are the challenges with history.